The Patriotic Front Pamoja Alliance on Saturday, 21st March 2026, held a convention to elect a party president, and Makebi Zulu emerged victorious after securing 49.2% of delegate votes at the party's general conference, beating Given Lubinda, who was the party's acting president. While Zulu has been hailed as the new face of the Patriotic Front to lead the party into the August 2026 general elections, his victory is currently embroiled in legal and internal disputes, as some PF members such as Shongando Member of Parliament, Honorable Stephen Kampiongo, who has described the convention held as illegal. On tonight's edition of This Day, I speak with Ambassador Emmanuel Mwamba, who has been a key validator of the results that saw Makebi Zulu elected as party president. He joins me on tonight's edition of This Day virtually from the USA. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. My name is Andrew Mwansa. Ambassador Emmanuel Mwamba is IPS of the former ruling party, the Patriotic Front. He joins me shortly to discuss the election of Makebi Zulu. We discuss the legality and the legitimacy of this particular election, convention, if you like. Ambassador Emmanuel Mwamba, thank you so much. Always a pleasure to have you on our platform. Good evening. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much, and thank you for this program.
Let's quickly get into the election that we saw on the 21st of March. This was on a Saturday. A shock to many, to some even of your members. They didn't know that there was a general conference happening, yet it happened, and now you have a new leader. Why did you keep this as a secret, the general conference as a secret?
It was never a secret. Nominations were done openly. Candidates came to the secretariat when we reopened the process and allowed new candidates that had expressed interest. That process was open again. You had Honorable Given Lubinda, Chandaka Totowe, Makebi Zulu, and Joseph William Dolo, who participated in the next process other than the 9 candidates we had from 2022. The process has been public. Prior to the election on Saturday, you had a press conference that was held by Honorable Given Lubinda, where he gave the party 4 days in which to hold the general conference. He said, we have complied with all the regulations of the party and our party constitution. He said there is no need for any further delay. Even a night before the elections, Honorable Given Lubinda held a virtual conference, and he kept on announcing that as you go to elections tomorrow, vote for a leader that you think will take over from Edgar Lungu. There was nothing private about it. If people chose to be blind to such public facts, you cannot accuse us of holding a secretive general conference.
Let's talk about this general conference in context. Was this a Patriotic Front general conference? Because my understanding is that those people that you're mentioning who participated in the election or the convention that happened on the 21st were people that had paid under the umbrella of the Patriotic Front as presidential candidates. Are you confirming tonight that indeed this was a PF general conference, Ambassador Emmanuel Mwamba?
So there's no direct answer. It's not a yes and no answer. It requires brief history. In 2023, we started this process in 2021 when President Edgar Lungu indicated that he had resigned. We kept him, that he needed to shepherd us in the transition until we get a new leader. We had 9 candidates that paid for, to express interest to lead our party. We had a development in 2023 on October 24th when one of us held a unilateral action, something that was outside the party, and declared himself president. We had complained about that process, that this process is illegal, has not been sanctioned by the party. But what we saw is, instead of the police protecting us, the owner of the party, the police proceeded to protect this member who was holding an illegal general conference. And since then, we've been in court. 3 days after the President Edgar Lungu after that conference was held, 3 days later, on 28th October, President Lungu came back into politics. He says, I am coming back to ensure that the PF is restored and that this attack on the PF is an attack on democracy. And therefore, I will fight for the democracy of our country. Since then, we've been operating as such, where the legality of our party was taken away from us, but the legitimacy of the party has always been with you. Our members have always been with you. During the intervening period, we've participated in by-elections, even if we had to use other platforms. We've held public processes. We've participated in national events such as Women's Day, Youth Day, Independence Day. We have operated politically as the Patriotic Front, even when the legal status was given to a substitute of status, Robert Chavinga.
So, if I got you correctly, correct me if I'm wrong, so you said you can't give a clear answer whether this was a Patriotic Front convention or it was some other convention. The reason I ask like that, Ambassador Emmanuel Mwamba, is because you are aware that the legitimate or the legal owner of the Patriotic Front as per documents is Honorable Robert Chavinga. This is what the records show. And obviously, we are aware of the fact that there are court processes that are in court at the moment, and you are aware of an injunction in Kawe that stopped either factions of the Patriotic Front, from holding any activity because that will lead, to contempt of court. That's the reason for why I asked that question. Aren't you scared that you'll be found in contempt for you going ahead to have this convention? In fact, someone has already dragged your party or your president, Makebi Zulu, to court over contempt of court. What is your take or reaction to the legal issues happening within the Patriotic Front and the fact that you've gone ahead to have this convention?
We should start with the important things. In last week, the Human Rights Watch International issued a report about our country, the state of our country. And it has stated that the country is under autocratic leadership, that there is a dictatorship reigning, that there is a president who has hijacked institutions, democratic institutions, such as parliament, the judiciary, the police, and the Electoral Commission of Zambia. They've even expressed fear that our country may not hold credible, transparent, free and fair elections. That is the environment we are operating in, where there is a damning environment that says institutions such as parliament, institutions such as the judiciary are being used, they've been weaponized. Law enforcement agencies have been weaponized to first punish political opponents and critics. That's the environment we are operating in. And we have chosen to survive under this environment. You should remember that apartheid was law and everyone was obliged to follow that law. But that law didn't make it legitimate. In fact, the absurdity of that law is that it was an attack on humanity, that it was a crime against humanity. It doesn't make it right. What President Hakainde Hichilema has documented by various stakeholders from the Law Association of Zambia, the Oasis Forum, the church, and now all these proliferation of international reports that has described our country properly, that we are a country under siege and there is a dictatorship reigning, the rule of law has broken down, and that there is a president determined to get his second term at all cost and is abusing the law, is abusing democratic institutions such as the judiciary. So you can't take one limb, say this law says you've been contempt, because you have to look at the entire environment where we are operating in.
That's interesting if you're going to put things like that. Allow me to bring you back to this conference. What was the electoral college of this conference? Because if I go to the Patriotic Front, constitution in Article 51, Article 51 speaks of Article 52 rather, speaks of the election of the party, of the the president of the party, section Article 52, Part 1 of your constitution, Ambassador Emmanuel Mwamba, says the president of the party shall be elected at the general conference of the party. And then the general conference is under Article 47, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, 47. 47 says that 47 Part 4 says the general conference shall be attended by all members of the National Council, be up to 500 delegates from each province selected in accordance with rules made by the Central Committee. I'd like to find out whether this, this convention that was held that saw Makebi Zulu elected as president did meet the standards of your constitution in regards to the delegates that are supposed to participate in a general conference. Did you meet the standard of up to 500 delegates from each province in this election that was held on Saturday, the 21st of March?
First of all, I'll not go into the mechanics of the law, of the general conference. I'll not go into the details. But what I can tell you is that we have a guiding document in the Constitution. We've been at this process the last 3 years, and that prior to this, in the build-up of the months, the presidential candidates sat again and again to ensure that everything was done in accordance with the party constitution, everything was done in accordance with our own regulations. And both the Secretariat, the Central Committee, and the presidential candidates all agreed that finally we should go ahead. We looked at the legal parameters and the legal restrictions of the law. We looked at our resources that we had. We looked at the leadership of the party in the Central Committee and the presidential candidate. And we all settled that the election should go ahead. And we met all the criteria, both external and internal factors, both our party constitution and the environment, such as the 2 court injunctions that were against us, both in the Court of Appeal and in Kabwe. So the environment we looked at were all these factors, and how can we ensure that the Patriotic Front picks its leader under the environment? And that's what was done.
So, again I ask, not to put you on the spot, Ambassador. I'm looking at your document here, your guiding document, the document that you've actually taken, Honourable Ngona for, and Honourable the people that grab the Patriotic Front away from you, the people that grab the Patriotic Front away from you. You've used the Constitution as your guiding principle to how an election must be done. In fact, you, Honourable Emmanuel Mwamba, and others have suggested that the election that was held by Mao Sampa was irregular because it didn't follow what is stipulated in the Constitution. My question again to you, Ambassador Emmanuel Mwamba, is that did you follow what your Constitution stipulates in regards to the general conference that happened, the convention that happened on Saturday? And critical to the formation of a general conference, your Constitution is very clear that a general conference shall be attended by all members of the National Council. Did all members of the National Council attend this general conference that happened? I don't know. You need to tell me. Did up to 500 delegates from each province, selected in accordance with the rules made by the Central Committee, did these attend the general conference that elected Makebi Zulu on Saturday? These are the questions that I want for you to address and respond to, Ambassador Emmanuel Mwamba. Were these met prior to having this general conference that you held?
Yes, of course, I don't want to go into the particular details, but what I can tell you is that let's take one limb, which you are insisting, that up to 500 delegates should come from the province. What does up to 500 mean? It means between 1 to 500. The ceiling is not 500. The ceiling is 500, but the minimum threshold is not defined. So the party adhered to the provisions of the law. Did the National Council take place? Yes, it did. We had leaders in the National Council that voted. The first vote happened in the Central Committee and National Council. So all the parameters, in light of the matters that are in Kabwe, I wouldn't like to delve in particular details, but what I can tell you is that the party looked at the factors before it. One, we have court orders against us. Number two, we have resource constraint. Number three, we have the agency of the matter. There is an electoral calendar that has been issued by ECZ, and they will not wait for us, for example, to complete our court processes, that they will not wait. So there were various factors before us, and the outcome of all these factors is the election of Makebi Zulu.
One of the participants in this election was Joseph William Dolo in South Africa, who described these elections as irregular and illegal. This was a participant, you're a member of the Patriotic Front, and the candidate who was supposed to have participated in this election described that election as a sham, as illegal and irregular. Are you taking his points into perspective? Also, are you...
No. No, not at all. That's a joke because, number one, who did William Joseph Mdolo pay to? Did he pay to Robert Chavinga? Did he pay to Morgan Ngona? Who did he pay the 200,000? Who did he pay the 50,000 to? Even prior to the election on Saturday, how was he attending those meetings for presidential candidates to ensure that they were satisfied with the Electoral College, the delegate list, and the preparations and the concerns around our legal status? He was part of the process. So this is what I call fallout. And it's up to the leadership in Makebi Zulu to deal with these issues. There'll be fallouts to every election. What do you do with that? And I'm glad hearing what Makebi Zulu has stated. Honorable Makebi Zulu has stated that he has started the healing in the party for those that are willing to reconcile to one another and to the leadership of the PF. The doors are open. He has called on members of the Patriotic Front that could have left broken away or were disillusioned by the confusion that has taken place the last 3 years when the party has been in wilderness, in limbo. He has thanked Acting President Given Rwinda, who held forth despite all these circumstances. So for us, I think we are already looking to the future. What do we do? We have an election coming up in August. We have an electoral process starting on 15th April. We have the opposition that still don't have a candidate, a unified candidate. Those are the bigger issues we are dealing with. For remarks against people that are calling this convention illegal, they are entitled to their own opinion. But what I can tell you is that the person who conducted this election, acting president at the time, Given Rwinda, the Electoral Commission that was appointed of eminent personalities in our country are satisfied that the election of Makebi Zulu was done according to our own statute and according to the parameters of the party.
You're speaking of looking into the future. Let's look at the future. On the 27th of March, which is this coming Friday, obviously the judgment is expected on your case of the Patriotic Front, and you know the fate of the Patriotic Front in the next 2 days. Let's take the first scenario, Ambassador Emmanuel Mwamba. If the court rules in your favor, it means that everything will have to return to its original position. It means that Edgar Lungu becomes president of the Patriotic Front. Now that Edgar Lungu is not there, then Given Rwinda obviously then becomes acting president of the Patriotic Front. If the PF is given back to you, are you going to go back to do the convention once again under the Patriotic Front that would have been given back to you? Or what will happen, if the PF is given to you in that first scenario?
Let's cross the bridge when we get there. I don't want to raise hopes in our people that the PF will be given back. We've walked that path. Just a minute, Mr. Mwansa. We've walked that path. There is no guarantee that the PF will be given back on Friday, tomorrow. There is no guarantee whatsoever. I don't even want to raise hopes that it will be given back. If it will be given back, that will be very good. A meeting will be convened by the Central Committee, and the leadership will decide on the way forward. If it's dismissed, again, we'll sit down to see other parameters. The judgment can go either way. There are two parties, Mal Sampa and Raphael Nakachinda on one side that have agreed, but there's a third party who's disrupting the process in Robert Chavinga, who applied to join the case, is a joinder to this case. We don't know what he will do. Even if we won tomorrow, you can't guarantee that Robert Chavinga may not appeal. So I don't want to go into adventure and dreams. Is that here we are, a month before we begin the electoral process that will elect a president of our country. I think we should be looking at it in this state that the PF and its leadership have been deplatformed by the ruling party. They've attempted to use the law, the Registrar of Society, Parliament, and the courts of law to ensure that the leadership of the PF is nowhere near the ballot. For me, that's the environment I would like to operate and then plan from there. To hinge our hope that the legal process will be completed is to fool ourselves. Besides the matter, the consent agreement that is coming up tomorrow is just at the high court level. Our court system has an appellate process. And like I said, you have a third party. It's just not between Maus and Rafael Nakashinda. It is now, there's a third party in Morgan Ngona who joined the process, and we just can't predict, even if we won, what Morgan Ngona will do.
Since we don't walk those waters and give us a hypothetical example of what might happen if things go back to the original state that they were in, let's probably take scenario number 2. If the courts continue to delay with this process, what is the plan B of the Patriotic Front? Do you already have a special purpose vehicle that you're going to use to contest these elections?
From day one, we recognize that the legality of our party had been taken away. We had the legitimacy. We began to work. We formed United Kwacha Alliance. President Edgar Lungu was so far-sighted, and we had said, with our weaknesses, we had a large following. We're leading the largest political party in the country. Is it possible that we can come together as the opposition and probably use any of your vehicles, the 11 political parties that formed United Kwacha Alliance? When State House infiltrated UKA, disrupted the work of UKA, we moved to Tonse Alliance. Again, there have been issues in Tonse Alliance. The PF will continue to seek solutions. Just like when there's an election in Petauke, we pick a candidate. That candidate wins elections without being on the banner of the PF as the logo. But we tell our members that mwana wenu musaleni walasala. We did the same in Chawama. We are still going to do the same thing with Makebi Zulu. Whether we will take him to the opposition, whether he will stand as an independent, whether he will stand on PF. The issue, what was very important, is to build and get consensus of the Patriotic Front, of who among these worthy sons that the party has could be their leader. The party has obtained a leader from the consensus of the members. And what we'll do with that leader is another matter. What we will do with those aspiring for members of parliament, council chairperson, mayors and councillors. Again, these are strategic issues, and no general discloses his a strategy to the members of the public, because the enemy will take advantage of it. But we are determined, even under these severe circumstances, to participate in the electoral process of our country, because that's a fundamental human right. Political rights are part of the universal rights. And that's why Zambia is standing in violation, because it's trying to restrict civil and political rights and human rights.
Do you feel the election of Makebi Zulu worsens the situation in the Patriotic Front? I ask this question because if you look at the presidential results, probably some people didn't expect results to come out in this fashion. You have Makebi Zulu that got 49.2%. You have Chichalu Chirufya that got 34.1%. You have, surprisingly enough, the acting president by then, Given Luminda, got 8.7%. You have Chanda Katotowe, who got 4.8%. You have Grefford Monde, who got 1.9%. And you've got Honorable Chimba Kambwili, who came out last in this election by only garnering 1.4% of the Electoral College votes cast. Don't you see any irregularity there, Ambassador Emmanuel Mwamba, for a person who is well grounded in Zambia's politics like Chishimba Kambwili having to go last in this election, one that many people really see themselves in, one that is a strong candidate getting to be last? Do you see the election results really politically making sense?
Yes, it does. It just speaks to the depth of the reservoir of leadership in the PF. Any of those men can lead our country with or without the PF. Those are national leaders. And for us, we are very proud that you still have 5 years after we lost power. We still have a huge reservoir of leadership that can run the country at any time, any of those. At this stage, the members of the Patriotic Front have said they want, they chose Makebi Zulu. There's nothing strange about that. It's a choice. It's an election. And what I can say is, speaking for myself, I have been interviewing presidents. Every presidential aspirant in my country has been to my podcast. Every one of them, up to 25. I recently ran a poll. Makebi Zulu, Harry Kalaba, and President Hakainde Hichilema emerged top of those 25 presidential candidates. So you and I, as political pundits, may have our own opinions, but in the eyes of Zambians, they are seeing Makebi Zulu as among the topmost leaders in our country.
The phone lines are open. You can come through and give us your call, but also we are streaming this program live on our Facebook page at Diamond TV Online. We've got our first caller. He is my machina, Andrew Mwansa. Hello, Mr. Mwansa. Good evening. Thank you so much for joining us on this day tonight. Ndita kanabesa mwabombeni mkwai.
Yeah, I'm a regular follower of this program. Yeah, na koshana wa Emmanuel Mwamba. Machina, shisha mshoa amba Emmanuel bari umfo. Na alaso samtizemba. Inele one thing also ningarani kule wa PF utakwe bati wa PF tu atatemo. Nomba shimisangu bare chitatu chueme. Mairutu mfuku twali mfatu kwa lima election watu wala kukoti futi. Ndingo wama napala pama ballot paper ila wapo estre pama social media tapari PF baita party convention, so that we should expect it. The only thing also I'd like to encourage Mwamba, because in our chair spokesperson and vice spokesperson, takuba tima Mwamba, eveni wa Makebi, na brand munduvire, na Harry Kalaba. Abantu na rumbura, so na barumbura takuba abantu bakuma MPF, elo nomba, bati yadiko MPF, nomba baya taramuli fide Spanish fide. So landeni na abantu aba mpange chintu chimu anda ukuru walu watakufaika yarerure chipani takufaika you from day one from 2021 to alipunda tikatani nomba like matamfo kuikatana mfafiti ya mtu fuari eveni wa Makebi Zulu tabantu bati kwa muikatani if abantu babiri batatu na rumbura aba ngata mwachimikatani mwapanga impact ikuru sana. Sarentio matio ba president yo va vice president yo washara kupira kwa chifurisha kwati taba kwa trist ndani yote tuli mkuru wa PF tete maseka kwa PF mwapanga kwa chintu chingo kana kuno kurabako mulekere nchavinga na PF yako ishtaika sikuru mkeka mkonga nomba chavinga wakwetesha na papers ishtaika fika nomba yote tuli PF kwena tuanaka na PF mwandi ndeti mwepe kwa na Zambia tuanaka no kumva mali ya dawa tangi chintu chimoto tumfwe no tuweze tuende pa PF awo chifo chifuiro kube tuanaka ke by Emmanuel Mwamba ndena na abantu abagata kwa so that mpange chicho what doze tumfatio uyotaba kwino uyotitubena what flow of mutaro yine parwa ndeta kupunda mashu ya mkojereza iko fodena Zambia tulipi ngato akompanya proteko kulipo tukaliza imwe filamba chisu ikaba palimwe wa opposition pozi mu opposition tamfuku pozi mutu shturepitamo nomrengere wa opposition opposition nga mwalikata nomutesitupitemu so ifwenga tuwa 2026 abo baliponga bapita nimwo mukarenga ero mwikatara bukyapo nokulanda pama politics nkekarefezi because nchimo mukarenga ifoto mambo kutura because turechura because of you people
twatotera bamwanza
twatotera ba
Mkwaye twatotera Mkwaye. Ambassador Emmanuel Mwamba, would you like to respond to that? But also, as you respond to that, there's so many schools of thought that have described the confusion in the Patriotic Front as scripted, that the leaving of Brian Mundubile and going to Tutonse and the remaining of you other colleagues in the Patriotic Front, all this is scripted, and that at the end of it all you come together, and you go in as one. Would you confirm tonight that the confusion that is in the PF is not organic, it's scripted, it is just made, it's part of your plan to confuse the ruling party in terms of who to fight, but at the end of the day, you're going to come together as one, as you respond to Vamashina's question that he had for you?
Yeah, thank you very much. I had already stated by Andrew at Makebi wawinine Badilandile at his biggest task was to unite the forces and the many stakeholders in the Patriotic Front. Some of those that he stood with, the leadership, of given Lubinda, we have a council of elders in the party. That would be his primary role. Secondary role is to now step out and look at the larger opposition. Ensure that he speaks to Fred Membe, ensure that he speaks to Brian Mundubile, ensures that he speaks to KBF, ensures that he speaks to Honorable Harry Kalaba. And Makebi Zulu is already doing that. You saw he went to see Honorable Given Lubinda. You saw that he went to see one of our council of leaders, of elders, Honorable Inonge Winner. And you saw him that he was with Harry Kalaba and they pledged, with the opposition to work together. For me, that answers the question is that when they elect you as a leader, I think follow the path of unity, and Makebi Zulu is doing very well. Andrew, the owner of the program, not Andrew the caller, you are saying, is this matter scripted? Yes, it is scripted. Unfortunately, we are not the author. The author of this script is President Hakainde Hichilema. When he removed the legitimacy of the Patriotic Front, the legality of the Patriotic Front, he saw all these internal issues you are saying. Because as soon as the legality of the PF was removed, it meant that Given Lubinda cannot punish an MP. Even if he punishes an MP, it is academic. That MP will not be removed. That MP, there will be no by-election. President Hakainde Hichilema, by sowing that seed of removing the legality of the PF, he knew that confusion will reign, indiscipline will take the forefront, because the leadership had no authority, real authority to punish the erring members. So it is scripted from day one. And what you are seeing in all this is that single action to deplatform the leadership, the genuine leadership of the PF, and put stooges on the PF in the name of who holds the certificate of title at any given time.
Time and again, President Hakainde Hichilema has distanced himself from the internal frictions or internal wrangles of the Patriotic Front. Why do you keep bringing his name and, telling him that he's the one that caused the confusion within your party?
That's what it is. The evidence is extremely overwhelming. The issue of the PF has been cited in many international and local reports. It is not an opinion, it is a fact. When Mal Sampa held that conference, he had over 200 police officers securing the venue, that the process will not be disrupted. We had the Deputy Inspector General of Police on site to ensure that the forms and fingerprints were processed. A matter that takes 21 days was done within 24 hours. We had the registrar threatened, and when she refused to back off that this is an illegality, she was harassed and removed. We have the process of what has been happening, both at Parliament and in the courts of law, there is no better evidence than what has happened. And denying it doesn't take away the fact that this has been a process of State House. Denying it doesn't mean that the allegation that these are internal wrangles then thrives. No. The internal wrangles are as a result of that illegality that was done against the PF.
Let's pick our second caller. Hello, good evening.
Hello.
Good evening. Thank you so much for joining us on this day tonight.
Hello.
Can you hear me? Hello, good evening. Can you hear me? Stand proceed.
Hello.
Tukumvelani. Kelvin Zulu, mlibwanje.
Ine chipempa ko ine nikala kwa kani. Please chipempa ko bayimwe Mwamba. Gwirizanani mukale pamozi. PFT konda but mugwirizane mukale pamozi. Mugwirizane bantu bavutika mukabwera pa ground. Bantu bavutika not bazinama kuti bakonza ichi kulibe chintu chemecha konzewa. Bantu bavutika. Tipepa please tapapata. Bye.
Okay, so come over Kelvin Zulu. Ambassador Emmanuel, I think the call has been very consistent from the first two callers we've had. All of them are suggesting that you need to unite and come together. Is this something that you see as visible or feasible?
Opposition unity is non-negotiable. If our political leaders do not unite, the people of Zambia are going to demonstrate in their vote. Let me take you to Malawi earlier in 2025. There were over 13 candidates, about 3 former presidents on the ballot, and former vice presidents, formidable, family of candidates in Malawi. And the people of Malawi decided on that 84-year-old, and they voted either between Lazarus Chakwera and, the former president. Even here, the warning to the opposition is if you do not unite, our people will choose among us. Even if all of you go to elections, our people will choose who they think should be the next leader of our country. But all these things we are doing to urge them to unite is just a precursor. But if they refuse, they're obstinate, selfish, and they want to go into elections individually, our people will choose among the candidates that will be there, and our people will show the way.
Politically speaking, do you think Honorable Makebi Zulu can deliver the Patriotic Front victory against formidable President Hakainde Hichilema?
The PF is such a resilient party. That's why there have been severe attacks against it to attempt to kill and destroy it. This party remains standing because of its foundation that was done by Michael Sata, prolonged by Edgar Lungu. It remains, even in its current state, a very formidable political formation, and it can deliver any president. For Makebi Zulu, he brings dividends to the leadership. He's young, he's youthful, and young people seem to like him, and they're the majority of voters. We think that with his experience as a parliamentarian, as a minister, he's able to deliver. Further, he's also open to working with others, and together they can then deliver, a win for the opposition. So for me, I remain very hopeful.
Let's pick our third column from the copper board. Mansa Piri calling us from Kitwe. Hello, good evening.
Hello.
Hello, good evening, Martha.
Good evening. Ndetambika program kukuli ba Emmanuel Mwamba.
Emukwai nukwina Martha Piri.
Yes. Nashirafu okulanda kokweba ati alamwe bantu mwikataneni fye ba opposition ikataneni fye bonse. Time taidi na imwe yakoba ati twambi okula donsa nokula itwala na kuma koti okukuba selfish. Tangen fe chintu chimo ngamulelwishe chintu chimo takwaba oyu alefu afefya alefu afefya tikefibe pa fest takwaba election twayikala yonse 5 years tulero lafe ko bati ba opposition bekatani olokushere fe no months ano nte 3 months o tuleranda luishina makayonse muikatani pamo ali kalaba ba mundubire Makebi Zulu bonse abo babwesheni tube pamo nga twaba pamo tuikatane tupange chintu chimo mwana sankwati mzambe twakwata one party state of which it is not even helpful for our democracy. So if we kulira kwestu alolera lyonse litwikele fe kubono kwe bati ba opposition twikatane tupange chintu chimo ife fo tuchiri tulero lero if into mwana mwana kwati filibuno if inta filibuno mzambia things are bad. If in Filipina Rubana ngani kuma hospitals ngamwata mu limit kuma nima bala miputwira mwebantu kuma nima bale pundo kwebati takwa abatetra milipidi no mpeshe baputula shanshi mpeshe baputwira abantu shanshi impeshe bicho bali kutula gashinga myaka shinga tawatala shiko na access amana nikana batinga wayati mpya takuti o ifite tuti mama ni shule yako isoko tulea where are we going
amata twatatira mkwai. And obviously, I think the cause that we've had are calling for one thing for you to unite. But again, Ambassador Emmanuel Mwamba, your party or you, the opposition, are going against someone that is very formidable, someone that, has done so much. And I'll put things into context. If you look at our economy today, Ambassador Emmanuel Mwamba, our GDP is growing at an average of 5.6% and is expected to grow by 6% as of December of 2026. Our exchange rate has performed quite fairly well, from last year, from about 28 kwacha, now we're speaking about 18.99%. Our inflation as of month of March is now still at single digit at 7.1%. The mining sector is doing so well. Production of copper has gone at above 890,000, metric tons. All the fundamentals are pointing in the right direction. What are you telling the Zambians, you that wants to come back and lead them again, on what you're coming to do that will surpass these economic fundamentals that have been placed in their right form, Ambassador Emmanuel Mwamba? Beyond removing Hakainde Hichilema as president, what are you bringing on the table that you're telling Zambians that will do better than this regime?
Yeah, first of all, if you go to the actual fundamentals, there is doubt. 5.6% growth rate to 6%. It was recently revised by the IMF. They've even refused an agreement with the Zambian government that this can only be possible after election. And after election, we don't know which government is coming. So the hopeful narrative that is given to us may not be as it is. Exchange rate, what's anchoring the stability after being volatile for 5 years? Tell me, have we increased exports? What is anchoring the stable exchange rate if probably we are not using our reserves to stabilize the market because we have an election? Just like load shedding, all of a sudden load shedding has gone away because we have an election. Not that something has improved. They've stopped exporting the power because we have an election and they want our people to have power for now, but we may revert to default status after election. Inflation rate, come on. The Jesuit Center for Theological Studies just issued the highest cost of living we've ever witnessed in our country. And to feed a family, or is it of 5, the numbers have jumped from 10,000 somewhere. It's now 11,000. Is it 11,700? The highest cost of living this country has seen. So where is this inflation rate? How is it calculated? What items have they removed from the calculation? If they removed fuel and certain food items for them to give us this massage number, there is no credibility at the moment with what is happening at the Zambia Statistics Agency and the type of statistics that they are issuing. This was after a heavy overhaul, heavy changes, and all of a sudden we have statistics that are coming up in a very surprising manner. The 890,000 copper exports, if you look at 2021, even when the UPND said we closed mines, you know, their narrative is that mines were closed, now mines have been opened. Our export as of 2021 was 850,000 metric tons. The Zambian government was earning over $1 billion from that sector. Here we are. In 2025, we exported $12.5 billion worth of copper. What is a return to the treasury? What is a return to our basket? So the so-called growth and add on top CDF and free education. Free education, first of all, there's nothing that this government has done other than to remove the smallest amount, because free education was made by Mwamba. And what we remained with were only those PTA funds. They were at 650 kwacha. President Edgar Lungu came and reduced that PTA fund from 650 to 150 kwacha. President Hakainde Hichilema came and removed only that 150 kwacha, and he's celebrating that he has brought free education. The feeding program for all of us that worked in the rural areas has been there for a long time. It's just that the UPND are tweaking these messages like they are doing something. CDF is under 4% of a national budget. You cannot develop your country by allocating 4% of your national budget to development. If President Hakainde Hichilema is committed to developing the entire country, he should implement the decentralization policy.
So you're disregarding these economic fundamentals that have been are pointing in the right direction. That obviously you're asking, what have we done for these fundamentals to point in this direction? Obviously the government points to the fact that we've had a successful debt restructuring and investor confidence. Government points to the mining sector rebound. Government points to the agricultural growth. Government points to the policy reforms and stability. Also the energy sector investments that we've seen a couple of months. This is what government is pointing to as the cause of this expansion in terms of our GDP that is trickling down to these economic fundamentals. But also we did see the announcement, Ambassador Emmanuel Mwamba, that the announcement to the effect that the prices of commodities are now coming down because the cost of production has reduced, because now we no longer experience load shedding. So that means that the cost of production has gone down. It means now that the exchange rate is performing well. It means that the cost of living, is going down. And so when you speak of the effect of these economic fundamentals, government argues that these are trickling down to the people and that numbers don't really lie. But beyond that, Ambassador Emmanuel Mwamba, I know that you've given your position on this matter. I would like to find out what you are promising the Zambians tonight, besides the free education, the free education that the UPND has delivered, the CDF that the UPND has delivered, the debt restructuring that the UPND has delivered. What are you bringing on the table in terms of what you're promising the Zambians?
Yeah, first of all, that's why I was bothering to just give some tidbits. Debt restructure is a disaster because our debt service has actually even gone up before we did debt restructure. It's in excess of the projection, $1 billion to $1.2 billion between 2025, 2026, 2027. What kind of debt restructure is that if your debt service is going to be that high? That's why Musokotwane is celebrated here in Washington, because the only people smiling are the creditors that gave us money. The debt has been pushed to 2032, 2048, but the kind of interest and debt service we are getting now is such a lot of money. It remains a cost to our country.
But the service has just hold on, Ambassador. The service has reduced from $1.2 billion to $900 million dollars per year. Mustn't we not commend government for this, that we're now going to be spending 900 million as opposed to 1.2 billion?
I heard Felix Nkulukusa, the Secretary to Treasury, claiming that the debt service had been reduced to 900 million. The figures for 2025 show $1.1 billion. For 2026, projected at 1.2 billion. For 2027, another $1.2 billion. So I'm yet to see where that debt service has been reduced to. Did you expect? Remember, the reason the PF defaulted in 2020 is that the debt service had hit a ceiling of $1 billion. Now, after successful debt service, you are still paying, let us assume Felix Nkulukusa is right, you are still paying $900 million. What have you restructured? You have made the debt very expensive, because other than paying it in 2048, every year, you are paying up to $900 million. That's still a very, very expensive debt restructure. It's a disaster. When you assume the narrative of the UPND, you can be lost. But the figures and numbers tell a different story.
But Emmanuel Mwamba, what are you telling Zambians tonight of what you are bringing on the table?
Oh, I'm coming to that. CDF itself, like I said, is just 4% of the national budget. It doesn't matter how much they hide it. If they told you how much they allocate to a district for development, for me that would make sense. When you hide, no, it was 1.6, now it's 40 million. Come on. How much have you taken away from district development and provincial development funds? Then you will see how CDF is a disaster and how it can't bring development to our people. What you need to invest in are in those district development plans. That cost far. CDF at 40 million can only probably just do one road. So how long will it take you to do the development in the districts if you'll be doing one road per year? So these are disasters that are presented as successes. What will the opposition do? First of all, we need to reclaim our rights. Our people are living in fear. The cyber laws and cyber crimes. We have passed an illegal constitutional amendment. We've expanded that parliament from 156 constituencies and 165 seats to now 281. And that huge cost of land cruisers and upkeeps will cost our country. That's money that should have gone to our people, building schools, building hospitals, and ensuring that our country survives. So first of all, we need to restore our human rights, our rule of law, and put democracy back to where our forefathers envisioned it to be, that we should be a growing democracy. President Hakainde Hichilema has regressed our democracy to almost the one-party state. This huge regression has huge cost on this country. If our people can't freely speak, can't freely operate, and are afraid, you wouldn't know the toll and cost that has done. The load shedding, let me just answer the load shedding. The damage that was done the last 3 years may take many years to recover. The businesses that were shut during that period, it takes a lot of finance, money, and institutional memory to have a business running. And for them to shut down in the manner they shut down the last 3 years, I don't know how much time it will take for us to recover that lost business that was lost by our people, that shut down. People died because their businesses had closed. And it won't just by switching on the lights that the country will just be restored like that. You have to look at the damage that was done during that entire 3-year period when the country didn't have power.
Just on democracy, the first promise you are stating is democracy. You have not mentioned which laws you're going to reform, but your friends, in fact, you are in government for the past 10 years, Ambassador Emmanuel Mwamba. What major law reforms did you undertake that enhanced our democracy that you want to promise this time around? Your friends, the UPND, have introduced a law that you felt to implement the access to information, what a turnaround this has been for the country. The past 20 years, the past over 2 decades, we've been fighting to have access to information law. Now the UPND have brought about this law, and now it has been enacted. They've abolished the death penalty as part of enhancing our democracy. They have not closed any media house. If anything, they've committed not to close any media house, and they haven't closed any. Under your administration, Ambassador Emmanuel Mwamba, how many media houses did you close? And so, when you speak of enhancing democracy, what did you show, for what you're saying, Ambassador Emmanuel? What law reforms did you pass when you were in government that enhanced our democracy compared to what the UPND have done the past 5 years they've been in office? I've mentioned the access to information law, the abolishment of the death penalty, and the fact that they have not closed not any single media house since they were in office, compared to your 10-year rule that show media houses, both TV and radio stations, been closed down?
First of all, when you lose power, you take a postmortem. Why did we lose power? You evaluate. For example, the PF did an evaluation. Political violence, arrogance, issues of corruption in certain offices. You review. People resigned and the new leadership emerged. That's what you do, so that you are better next time. That's what governments here in America, in Europe, in UK do. When you lose an election, you review yourself. What did we do right? Can we build on the good things we did? What did we do wrong? Can we abandon the wrong things we did? That's number one. There are 2 laws that have been passed for window dressing: freedom of information, the access to information. It's window dressing. Do you have access to information? There's currently a big scandal where the Minister of Finance has been implicated in a health scandal of $25 million. If you ask for those documents in light of this law, will you be given? It's window dressing. Criminal defamation of the president is window dressing. Death penalty. The police are killing people every day, and it's in human rights reports. The police are shooting without disregard that you are a suspect. Death penalty. Are you respecting the issue of death penalty? If police can take away life just like that, if mobs can take away lives like that.
I'm meant to believe it's a figure of speech.
Just a minute.
I'm meant to believe it's a figure of speech when you say that the police are killing the people every day. I'm meant to believe it's a figure of speech, right?
No, it is not. It's in the United Nations Human Rights Council. The United States country report of 2024, they've catalogued what they call extrajudicial killings. That's no respect of life. If the police are going to kill anyone who they suspect, those reports you show where the police have shot 5 people at Mandayu or Arcades, those things are very, very dangerous. The police have no right to take away any life. They are supposed to take you to court. What they've done to me, torturing me, JJ Banda and others, and those that are tortured in police cells, is not right.
Yeah, I've read the human rights report. I was talking to the fact that when you say that the police are killing people every day, I meant to say it's a figure of speech, because it's not true that the police today have killed someone, unless you know someone that the police have killed today.
They should give you the reports every day of people that die in police cells, sometimes from police beatings. They should give you that report.
But would you say it's a matter?
Let's go back to the issues. What the government has done is to take away civil and political rights of our people, human rights of our people, is a pass cyber laws, cyber security and cyber laws. Laws meant to deal with the cyber. They've imported speech offenses there. You can go up to life imprisonment for hate speech, for tribal speech. Speech offenses have been imported in a cyber law and cyber security law. Today, 4 radio stations have been closed on the Copper Belt. They were closed just the other day. I saw the explanation by Tabo Kawana, where he says, no, they're interfering with aircraft communication. A lot of experts have laughed at that. That is just not possible. The frequencies under which radio stations operate and airplanes are totally different. Someone is shutting down. the political space of our people. 4 radio stations were closed in one loop, and Zicta's explanation that they're interfering with the landing of aircrafts. Come on, come on. We want to Akwalesa. Unza radio there and this towers is just next to the international airport. Have you ever heard of such an interference? So we are at a perilous state. It doesn't matter the narrative by the UPND, is that we are under an autocratic rule, someone who's determined to take away the rights of our people. He is not the only one that is determined to develop our country. We are all determined to develop our country.
What is also true, Ambassador Emmanuel Mwamba, is that the Permanent Secretary Thabo Kawana mentioned that they've been given temporal frequencies as they are shifted to other frequencies. But in conclusion, Ambassador Emmanuel Mwamba, what is the blueprint on how you are going to grow the economy? You have disregarded CDF, you've disregarded free education, you have disregarded what these UPND have done. What are you going to do in terms of the economy? Number one, to ensure that that figure you spoke about of the JCTR of a family of 5 that are now living beyond their means, over 11,000 kwacha for them to survive per month. What are you going to do to reduce that cost of living? What are you going to do to ensure that we've got real production, increment in the mining sector? What are you going to do? The callers that called in, if there's one thing that they've mentioned, is that they've suffered so much, and they are hoping for you to come back into power and restore the dignity, the human dignity that they once had under your tenure of office. So my question again is, what is your blueprint for the economy as the patriotic front?
I think the path of our country is so well known. It's very easy for any leadership to develop our country if you remove the corruption. For example, let's start with the mainstay of our economy, the mining sector. It accounts for 70 to 80% of our export, but its return to the treasury is under 5 to 10%. That's a huge anomaly. You remove the tax incentives that you unnecessarily give to. If you are going to pay your debt service up to $1 billion, where do you think the money will come from? If you give your family silver, which is the mining sector, you give it the latitude of tax holidays and these tax breaks that are given. So there are just basic things that needs to be done. The DRC has shot to be the major producer of copper in the world. It has jumped from 600,000 metric tons just 4-5 years ago. It's now number 2, number 3 in the world. It's producing up to 3.2 million metric tons of copper, and it's now competing with Chile and Peru. And there is war, there is no infrastructure. They rely on our power to mine. Despite all that environment, the production has shot to the roof. The investor will come to our country, even if there is war, because they are looking for that copper, that gold, that cobalt. So this latitude by this government, where they think they have to bend their back to the investor, while the investor extracts everything. Andrew, I was watching the mining in Dawa, and one of the leaders from the mines from Northwestern Province, one of the mine houses, was celebrating their copper mine. That is actually a gold mine. It's not necessarily a copper mine, because the amount of copper they're producing as a byproduct is so immense. So why are we giving away our family silver? Why are we doing that? The agricultural sector is supposed to be an immediate mass employer for our people. What are we doing to that sector? This government is now restricting the FISIP program that was producing bumper harvest. They are introduced loans. They've just done some organized confusion in the reforms that are taking place in the agricultural sector. They are not determined, focused on developing our country. Everything they do benefits foreigners, multinationals, or foreign entities, not our people, not our economy. We exported $12 billion worth of copper. Copper has been trending up to $14,000 per ton. That is the highest it has ever traded in the history of copper production. What did our country benefit from that? We are making billionaires out of the owners of the mine and no billionaire to our country and no proper revenue to our treasury. This is where the issue is. The issue of corruption, large-scale acts of corruption, that's a bleed to the treasury. You need to not just provide lip service, but we've seen government after government participating in looting the treasury. There are very easy ways, looking at how Singapore, South Korea, China, and Europe developed. Today, blueprints are everywhere to develop our country. But we have a leadership issue. We need to resolve the leadership issue. You cannot be electing thieves and looters and you expect a turnaround to our economy. So it doesn't matter how much I promise if you have not resolved the issue of incorruptible leadership, then we will not develop as a country.
Ambassador Emmanuel Mwamba, IPS of the Patriotic Front, thank you so much for making the time to be with us on this day tonight, and wishing you all the best as the country goes to the polls on the 13th of August 2026.
Thank you, Andrew, and thank you to your team and management. Thank you for the opportunity. God bless you. And to our dear callers, thank you for all those calls. God bless you. God bless our country. God bless Zambia.
There you have it. My guest has been Information and Publicity Secretary for the Patriotic Front, Ambassador Emmanuel Mwamba. We're talking about the legality and the legitimacy of Makebi Zulu's election as president of the party, but also looking at the promises that the Patriotic Front has as we proceed and go on to the elections of August 13th, 2026. On behalf of the entire production crew, thank you so much for watching. My name is Andrew Mansa. Till next time.